Fence post everybody forgot. Welcome to Front Porch Lessons. I'm Mark Morgan and I'm so glad you're here. The other day I was driving down a quiet back road when something caught my eye. It wasn't a beautiful sunset or a field of wildflowers. It was an old fence post. It just leaned a little. You know, its paint had long gone, disappeared. The rain had weathered it. The Arkansas sun baked it, and the rusty strands of barbed wire still clung to its sides. It wasn't straight anymore, and it certainly wasn't pretty. Most people would have drove right by it without giving it a second thought. But I couldn't stop looking at it. The old post had probably stood there for decades. It had seen storms that ripped through the countryside, summers hot enough to crack the ground, winters that froze everything solid, and years when nobody noticed it at all. And yet there it was, still standing, still doing its job. The more I looked at it, the more I realized it reminded me of people I know all my life. Folks who worked hard without asking for recognition. Parents who sacrificed quietly. Grandparents who carried burdens nobody ever saw. Neighbors who kept showing up even when life had knocked them sideways. Time had left its marks on every one of them. They weren't untouched by hardship. They had scars, disappointments, aches, losses, and stories they rarely talked about. Some leaned a little, but they never quit. Somewhere along the way, our world started celebrating everything shiny and brand new. We admire what's polished, perfect, and impressive. But out here on the back roads, I've learned, things with the most value usually have a little weather on them. Old barns, old Bibles, old tractors, old friendships, and sometimes old fence posts. You know, that learning that leaning post reminded me that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is simply showing up every single day and doing what you've always known was right. No applause, no spotlight, just quiet faithfulness. Maybe today you'll feel a little weathered yourself. Maybe life has left you with more scars than you ever expected. Maybe you don't stand quite straight as you once did. You don't count yourself out. Some of the strongest people I've ever known, leaned a little from carrying the weight of life on with grace. That forgotten fence post taught me something I'll carry for a long time. The strongest people aren't always the ones standing the tallest. They're the ones who refuse to quit after years of the storms. Thank y'all for spending a few moments with me here on the porch. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else, and remember, sometimes the greatest strength isn't standing tall, it's just still standing. Thank y'all.